Hey there, Chad here. Let's talk Ostranauts. Now, this is not exactly a Let's Play, but in my last episode, which was episode 13, I had talked a little bit about sorting my cargo so that I had a little bit better handle on where things were. And I didn't want to make a full episode about that, and my last two episodes were a little shorter than the normal ones, so I thought I'd just have this bonus episode attached here at the end of episode 13, so we'll call this 13A, that just really quickly walked through some of that stuff. And we'll take a quick peek. But I also had a question for the folks that are watching this video. What games do you play outside of Ostranauts? I'm kind of curious about that. I wouldn't mind a nice little thread in the comments about what folks are playing. I heard from a few folks in my tutorial series that recommended things like Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, which I did try. I didn't love it. It's okay. It's something I could maybe go back to, but I wasn't having a blast with it. I picked up Caves of Cud, which kind of the same game, just a different genre. From a functional perspective, very, very similar games. They're not identical, don't get me wrong, but they're on the same wavelength anyway. I've mentioned Duskers. I'm probably going to try to put out a video for folks who've never seen Duskers to kind of get an idea of it in case it's something they're interested in, because I have mentioned it a couple of times. And there's some other games I'd like to maybe catch on to as well, but there's also tons and tons of games out there that I've never heard of. So I would love for a little bit of feedback on what kind of games you're playing, what's your favorite game, however you want to categorize it. Maybe put your top three, or maybe your top three plus one that you think is unusual that's got interesting mechanics. I tend to like games that have a certain amount of complexity but not ridiculous to them. There's a few out there that are just way beyond what I'm interested in. Not so much into real-time strategy. I like builders myself. I like space games. I like things that make you, I guess, think about how you want to move forward. That's typically how strategy games work, right? I'm at a point in my life where first-person shooters aren't all that interesting anymore, unless they have a really interesting twist on them or something additional other than just running around the map. I played my share of Doom and Castle Wolfenstein 3D when I was younger. Heck, I worked on a couple of those kinds of games for id Software, and that was, a great time in my life, but at this point, that just isn't what grabs my attention. I like logistics things myself. Things like Transport Fever were pretty cool, and some of these games have bugs in them that people just couldn't stand, right? But I tend to try to get around that or work around those and not fret over that sort of stuff too much. My three top games right now are this one, RimWorld, and Kerbal Space Program, which again I've talked about 100 times. But those are the kinds of things I like. What do you like? So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about what I set out to talk about here today, and that is how I organized my ship real quick. The problem was I had a few crates. I actually bought two brand new ones to drop in here so I could do some of the sorting, and I had a whole bunch of bags. I didn't actually have as many bags as I thought I did. I only had like 4, so that's something I want to make sure I grab those when I see them. Backpacks are amazing, and if for no other reason, then you can put them in a crate, and then you can carry the crate, as many of you have pointed out, and now you have a crate with 9 backpacks and a ton of space to pick things up. That is something that I would like to maybe do in the future and see if you can totally strip a ship out and make a lot of money. Not on a ship right now, but that's just a way to go in the future, and so I'm going to kind of look towards that. The next episode, which will be episode 14, will be more of a normal episode, moving back into going out and salvaging and seeing what we can find and collect. Still looking for that tow bar. Once I do that, and once I have my ship paid off, we're going to see about hunting some derelicts and if we can make some money flipping ships. So this is my personal survival crate. I typically put this in wherever his room is, and I will often make this a cargo bay if I can find one, and I'll put it in the room right next to the bed, and then I just put all the stuff that he uses, like clothes and suits and things like that. I'll drop those all in there. So for the time being, those have, I think, 18 slots, which is very, very nice. Actually, it's probably more than that, but they have a lot of slots. Absent that, right now I'm putting in a couple of backpacks. This backpack has his suits, and that's what we'll find in here. There we go. He's got his suits, his helmets, his pressure suit, another helmet. If I have any other clothing that I end up with that I kind of like, I might put in there. Eventually I'll have some cargo pants. I haven't found any of those yet this time around. But that's what'll go in here. I'm contemplating if the billy club should go in there or not, but for now I've got it in the main crate. Then next to that is the stuff that is used for survival in the EVA suit, specifically batteries, oxygen tanks, and the CO2 filters. And this is where I'll put the extras of those. Once, of course, I have an EVA battery charger, these will go on there, and so that'll free up a little bit of space there. I'm also putting extra work lights in here, and I'm currently putting batteries for the work lights in there as well. That will probably all become its own bag eventually once I find another one. That's it for this one. Down here in this corner, I did do a little bit of rearranging of my bins also. And one of my bins I disassembled and it disappeared. I didn't disassemble it, I'm sorry. I uninstalled it. And upon it uninstalling, it vanished. It's not outside the ship. It was the one that was right here. It's not in here. And it didn't go into any of the bins or crates that were sitting around, so I think it just probably aired out and got deleted. And that's fine. That's not a big deal. I can find another one of those. There was nothing in it. But I did move the bin that was here down here over this rack. So I now have a bin and a rack. This rack has walls in it, and that's my plan. I'll use the racks for walls. I'll probably use this bin for walls as well. I don't think there's anything in it right now. Yep. So I have 6 more spaces to put walls that'll just be completely out of the way. This rack I think is empty right now, and I'll probably do walls and floor in there as well. This is the one where I store my scrap. And yes, started to think I messed up. This is the one where I store my scrap. Currently I have all the scrap in this backpack. And the reason I do that, this might be of interest to some of you. You might not have seen this before. If I open that backpack, I'm going to take some of this out. We'll take one of those out. We'll take a handful of those out. This sometimes works. Sometimes I get an error when I do this. In full disclosure, it is possible that it doesn't always do what I want it to do. But if I hit one here and I've got this backpack here, I can actually drag these things and just drop them right on the backpack, and it'll put them in there and sort them. And so I'll probably have a couple of those backpacks initially or eventually. And they'll get full, right? We'll end up filling these with parts. I don't try to sort the parts inside of separate backpacks. You certainly could do that. There's enough kinds. There's the mechanical, electronic, scrap carbon fiber, scrap aluminum, scrap steel, cloth. I don't use a whole lot of cloth myself, but it is something that's out there. There's, I think, 1 or 2 other pieces that you can end up with. Long story short, you could certainly do a bag for each of those, but when you need them, he'll come here and get them. So I don't think that's entirely necessary. Then I'll also have some bags where I put the different parts, like the screens and the motherboards and the motors and stuff like that. And it's kind of the same process. It doesn't really matter what bag they go into. You could ideally have a separate bag for each of those and be able to kind of group them better and kind of know where your inventory level is on those. My thought is I either have them or I don't. When I notice I'm low, I get more, and if I run out, well, I got to go buy something, I guess. I think that's it for this one. Over here, I decided to put tools, and currently there's the extra Weber lance that laser torch that we found kind of early on, 2nd or 3rd ship. I found a second one. It was right after I bought one, of course. There's a toolkit that I had picked up. It was in one of these racks. I moved it over here. It has some of the manual tools, including a 2nd screwdriver. I just held on to the screwdriver for now. Eventually I'll sell that. We have the friction welder and the angle grinder. When I have a teammate, they'll get the 2nd torch, and I'll give them the extra tools that I don't need as well, and they'll be able to do their repairs as necessary. I think that's it for this one. This crate, I think it's empty right now. Yeah, so I'll probably put stuff that I'm not sure what I want to do with in that one. It'll be kind of like the junk drawer for a while, and eventually it'll have something important in it. This one has flooring in it, and I'll continue to do that. We'll fill that up. This will probably end up with flooring eventually too when I decide that I'm not doing any junk stuff. You can always use more flooring, right? One box here can only hold 45 floor segments, which is 9 by 5, right? Or roughly 6 by 8. Actually, not quite 6 by 8. Certainly 6 by 7, though. That's not huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's this much space is 6 by 7. So one full crate can do just a little more than this. And you know, when you want to start building a reactor room and stuff like that, you need more than that. So I'll start to collect floor. I moved food into here and did put that in a bag as well. And this will be food and water for now. And I don't have a lot of water. In fact, those are empty. This one has two uses in it. Eventually I'll get a flask and put in here. Flasks are very expensive, but they last an extremely long time, so that's good. And if you're not aware, you can refill water at things like bathroom sinks up here. I'm just not needing to do that just now. And then finally, there's this crate up here, and this is where I'm going to put electronics. That's what it really comes down to. Right now, it's going to have conduit. Right now, it has the extra signal box I have. As I start to grab thermostats and stuff, I'll put them in here. Probably end up putting some bags in here if I get them. And that's what we're going to go with. My immediate next steps, we're going to, in the next video, go out and salvage another ship or two. Probably go to one of those areas that was ship dense and see what we can find. I might just go and tag a few of them to see what's on them. Then come back, make notes, and go out and scavenge those specifically with targeted demand on what I'm looking for. I do want to expand this out a little bit. I'm trying to avoid the big cube. We've talked about that a little bit. I do need to expand this out. I'm going to need to put in some more intakes eventually as the ship gets bigger. But this, I might go a little modest initially, give it some space for a couple more intakes, a couple of more batteries, and then kind of leave it be. I want to add more cargo space, as always, and I'm going to add a bedroom and a bathroom eventually. So the way this normally works for me, and again, I know we've probably covered this a little, but just to have it said, I'm normally building this out first into a big, like extending it 12, maybe 10 more spaces, making a big engineering room that I can seal off, put a door on it so that it can be completely cut off as necessary. That'll have batteries and intakes in it. It also needs, obviously, a heater, potentially a cooler. I do like to put vents in. It allows the air to flow in between the rooms, and you can get auto vents that'll automatically shut off at times. I can't remember if the manual vents will auto shut if it's a pressure loss or not. I'll need to check on that. I can't remember that right now. I haven't used them in a while. I normally build this way and put in a couple of beds for myself and a crewmate. And then that's where the survival and personal effects go. I usually put in a refrigerator. That's where food and water will go. And I'll put in, let's see, a table sometimes and a chair, just so there's, you know, comfort. I'm not sure it's needed, but it's there. And then finally, I build down this way with cargo, and often it ends up being just a big rectangle. And this time I'm going to go down as opposed to side to side. So we'll see if that makes it look a little nicer. Or maybe not. I'm assuming it's going to end up looking like a diamond. It's going to be kind of whitish here, and then it's going to get wider, and then real narrow at the front. That's what I'm going to be aiming for. All right, well, that's just a quick run through of how I decided to sort my belongings, the future of how I'm kind of planning on building this out, and where I'm planning on going with that. The next video, as I said, we will be going out and doing some more salvaging, and I'm looking forward to that. Hope you'll hang around and watch that when it comes out, and until then, fair travels.